Hello again and welcome back to Illegally Cited. This is Jesse here, and I am back for kind of a hardware review video, but also kind of an overall, what would you call this, like a hardware troubleshooting video? And by that I mean, one of the main problems that I've had with the Nintendo Switch is the Joy-Cons. So I have them off of my Switch right now. They're right here. This is the left one. I put a little grippy thingy on there that I got with one of my things I'll show you here shortly. Here's the left Joy-Con. Look at how small they are. I mean, my hands are just like, I can just like engulf it with my hand. So there's the left one. We've got our right one here. And if I'm holding this, I mean, look at, like, even if I have to use the analog stick, so like these buttons are so small. If you have large hands, these can be really kind of frustrating to use every once in a while and almost kind of painful if you are playing the system for a long period of time. So like if I'm holding this and I'm holding, I have this in my Switch especially, and maybe I want to play a first-person shooter like the classic Doom or Doom 64 or any number of things that are now available, I have to like kink my thumb or hold it out like this. It just doesn't feel right. And same with the left hand. I'm holding my phone with my left hand, so I can't really show you, but it's just, I feel like I have to really just crimp my thumb to play the game. And if I want to hit the home button down here, it's just like, okay. Granted, you don't have to do that as often, but I do use the home button a lot, especially since I double click it a lot to use magnification. So that is actually a very used button for me. So Nintendo or third parties have come out with all kinds of different solutions. Now, these first couple, I can't even remember what they're called. I could go look them up on Amazon, I suppose, and I'll try to remember to put a link to the different things that I have tried to purchase. I'm not really going to put too much focus on them, like the names and stuff. I'll put them in the description below. But, as you can tell, I've put some time, money, and effort into trying different solutions. So this one here, it is basically a rubber shell that will provide protection for your Switch. It's like a little glove that you kind of put around them, or what they used to call like the Wii condoms or whatever. You'd put the little for the Wii Motion Plus in there. But it's this rubberized shell. But what it does is it also gives you these extra little grips in them. So these helped a little bit, but the problem is they still didn't help with how squished everything felt. You still had to kind of kink your thumb to use your analog stick. Your face buttons were still very close together. So, and then on top of that, I think if I remember correctly, these, you had to take it out of this in order to put it back in the dock. So I didn't want to keep taking it in and out. Or if I wanted to use the Joy-Cons, I had to kind of, try to pull up the rubber so I could take the Switch out and put the Joy-Cons back in. So, it was okay, but not great. Took that off to the side. So then I thought, okay, well, then they have these little things that you can add to the Joy-Cons themselves. It's basically the same concept, except it's not a whole shell for the Switch. And these, again, they've got this little bulge here, so it kind of tries to add a little bit of a controller, kind of makes them a little bit thicker, because if you look at these Joy-Cons, they are very flat. You don't really have anything. It's, again, if you have larger hands, you don't really have a whole lot to work with. It's like everything just feels a little bit too maybe smushed. Like you play something like even like the old Game Boys or whatever, they had maybe a little bit more thickness to them. So we got left and right ones here. I got some blue ones, and this is the package where I got those little analog stick covers. So they also came with the rubber sticks, which I do like because they add a little bit more grip to when you're using the analog stick. So that part I do like. So I'll still use these. I'll keep those on there because that seems to work okay. But these didn't quite do it either because, again, they were still using my, I was still using tiny buttons. I was still having to kink my thumb a little bit. So they weren't quite doing it either. Well, then a little product, I think I might have even reviewed this on the channel already, the Satisfye Gaming Grip. Now, this got close. Look at this. So you slide the switch into this plastic shell, and you look at how nice you have, like, I can hold my thumb. Now, if I had my JoyCon in here, you know, I could use my joystick and my buttons a little bit. It was more comfortable to hold. I will absolutely give it that. And I like the fact that they added kind of the rubber on the underside here. You see they got the little rubber grip. So it makes it nice and a little bit easier to hold. But there's something about, I think it was like the right Joy-Con, where the way it was angled, again, something just didn't quite feel right. And again, you're still dealing with the actual Joy-Con buttons, and they're so close together, they're so small, and the analog stick is just right up next to the buttons. So look at, I mean, you look at this, and then you look it up here, like everything is just so, I mean, I know it's a portable system. That's the whole point, is that your Switch is portable. And, you know, in shorter doses, I don't mind. And for some types of games, it works really well. But for titles where you have to, like, use all of the buttons and use the analog sticks a lot, you know, like where you're actually all over the controller, I just find that these are a bit, they leave a bit to be desired. Which brings me to the main event for this video, and the controllers I learned about from Polygon. And these suckers are called the Split Pad Pro. So boy howdy, the first thing you're going to notice is I do have this on my Switch. It is still a portable system, but boy, yeah, you do definitely have a bit of extra heft. I'll zoom out here. Look at this. That definitely adds a little bit of chunk to your Switch. The good news is that you can still dock it. You don't have to take these off in order to dock it. It'll look a little bit goofy sitting there in your dock, but hey, you can, if you want to set it there and then maybe use your Pro controller while it's hooked up to the TV, you can do that. But these slide in. They're two separate controllers, and I can grab, it comes in just this little small box. You see right there. This is a YoRHa Split Pad Pro, and this one is in particular, they kind of have a really light Demon X Machina theme, because that was a game that came out, I don't remember if it was earlier this year or last year. I haven't played it yet, but I was mildly interested. It was kind of like that, kind of like this mech or like action shooty game, third-person game that looked kind of intriguing. If it goes on sale, I might pick it up at some point. But the only branding that you see is on, okay, well, they got the thumb on it here. But you see on the X button, they got kind of that X Machina little thing. So it looks different than the other buttons. Otherwise, it's just a regular controller with kind of a red theme. So, box, go away. Let's take a look at the actual real thing here. What I love about this, it does have some drawbacks, but there are several things that I think this is going to be my primary controller when I want to use my Switch in handheld mode. Because now, basically what they almost did is they almost took like the form factor of the Nintendo Pro controller and they just chopped it in half, put rails on either side so it can officially slide into the rail system. On the back here, you see you've got the little button right there, so I can hit it and slide it up. And it seats in there really well. It's not loose. It's not jiggly or anything like that. It slides in nicely. But the advantages that you get, look at these. Look at this analog stick. It's a real analog stick, something like you would get on the Pro controller or the Xbox One controller. A lot more, a lot more space to move. So again, if you're playing like a third-person or first-person shooter, something where you really want to do a lot more camera work, it's very much more comfortable, and you have a lot more area to move your thumbstick. Much appreciated. The other thing is, ooh, look at these buttons. They're big. They're normal size buttons. They're not tiny. And they're not super clicky. I mean, you can hear them, but they don't have that extra, let me see. Yeah, it's a similar thing. They're maybe a little bit squishier, but I've played Doom 64 with them. I've played a couple of 2D side scrollers with them. Some of the NES, the games in the NES and Super Nintendo online thing if you're a subscriber. The kind of virtual console-esque stuff. And it seemed to work well. You still have your plus and minus buttons on either side up here. You still have your home and your screenshot button down below on either side. The back of it, you've got your bumper and your trigger. The triggers, I think, feel a little bit, maybe they don't quite feel quite the way I would want them to. I mean, they're a little bit, I don't know if squishy is the right word, but they work. They're comfortable. They're responsive. I don't really have a problem in that regard, but there's just something maybe with the way, maybe the angle or just something, but they still feel all right. Like I said, I played some Doom and some Doom 64 a little bit, and it worked fine. On the left side, again, you get your wonderfully big analog stick, your true analog stick. Everything is spaced out nicely, so if you have big hands, you're going to like that. You're going to like that. And you get a true D-pad. And I said I've played like menus and side scrollers and stuff like that. I've played, in the menu systems and using side scrollers. I haven't really played any fighting games, so I don't know, like on Super Nintendo-esque stuff, like if I was going to play Street Fighter 2 or something like that. I don't have that yet. I'm kind of wanting to get that Street Fighter 30th Anniversary collection. And so I don't know how good the D-pad would be for doing your fireballs and Hadoukens and all that kind of stuff. But it seems all right. From what I've used of the D-pad, it's a little squishy, but it's a true D-pad, because if you look at the left one again, remember, it's actually not a D-pad. They're actually 4 separate buttons that are just happen to be in the shape of a D-pad. So if you want more of a true traditional D-pad, this Split Pad Pro might be your thing. So those are your regular controls. Again, you've got your minus, you've got your screenshot button, but we're not done. There's a couple other unique features about this controller. You notice we have 2 buttons down here, we have 2 buttons down here, and we also have on either controller, we have another button under the controller. So if I'm holding it like this, it's a little goofy the way I'm holding it and recording here, but I can use like my middle finger and still comfortably hit this almost like another shoulder button underneath, like a trigger button. And that is an extra button that is not on your typical Switch controller. So what they do is they have this assign button, same on the left side. You're going to see the same thing on the left. They have this assign button. So what you can do is you can hold down the assign button and then you hit what button you want to replace, or you hold down or you hit the other button. So let's say that I wanted the right underside button here, the little trigger thingy. If I wanted to not use the B button, maybe I wanted to use the underside button instead, I could hold this down and then tap the button, in this case the B button, and then that back button would be substituted for the face button. And that can be helpful, again, let's say I'm using a first-person shooter, because one thing when you're doing an analog stick with a controller with analog sticks is that to do common actions, maybe one of these face buttons is melee, and I don't want to take my thumb off of the analog stick in order to do that action. So I could map that to one of these under buttons. The one thing that doesn't seem to work is, even though both are connected to the switch, you can't, let's say that I want to have the left, I'll call it the trigger button, for lack of a better word, but the under the extra button there, I can't use the left button to map something from the right controller. And I think that's technically because, like, each JoyCon, when you're using a traditional JoyCon, they're both kind of their separate controllers. Yes, they can be combined together to function as one for many games, but then you have some titles, where people can play a game with simply one JoyCon. So I think with the rail system and everything like that, just the way that the Switch is designed, I think is why that limitation is there. So I don't know if there's anything really you can do about that. So I'm thinking, as far as like an accessibility point of view, like somebody who wants true remapping, and maybe they want one of these underside triggers to use a button on the other side of the controller, you can't seem to do that. At least I haven't gotten it to work. So that's one limitation. But hey, these are extra buttons that didn't have to be there. They're there. They're actually pretty comfortable. I haven't really used them myself in gameplay, but I'm thinking about actually remapping the run button, because if I remember correctly, in like Doom 64, I think you have to click and hold the analog stick to run, if I'm remembering correctly. And I hate doing that. I don't mind clicking an analog stick for a function, but I hate clicking and holding. I don't like doing that. There's been a few games on consoles where they've mapped a click and hold to do like a run or a crouch, something like that. And if I could use the left button here and click that, hold that to run while I'm moving the analog stick and not have to click it in, bonus. I'm there. Heck yeah. So it does have some functionality. It does have some potential use. Now, the other button you have is a turbo button on the right-hand side of either controller, on the bottom right there, and right there. You hold that down, and then you tap whatever button you want it to be, and then you can assign that button a control, or that button to be turboized, shall we say. In a lot of modern games, I don't know how useful that would be, but again, the Switch is a great system. It's got all these virtual console sort of games. I keep calling it virtual console, but you know what I mean. It's the little NES, SNES stuff. But then you have all these other collections. You've got the Sega ones, you've got Capcom, Konami, you've got all kinds of different collections that have like shooters, shoot 'em ups, side-scrolling or vertical shooters. And for games like that, where you're just hammering on a fire button constantly, I could see where that would be really useful. Yeah, okay, just set the A button to be turbo, and boom, we're good to go. Just hold that sucker down and you're good. So that's pretty much the Split Pad Pro. The potential downsides is, like I said, it's not as portable. So if you're looking to keep your system a little more on the portable side, it's not going to be that. But, you know, again, if you're someone with smaller hands, this may feel a little bit big to you. And maybe something like the Satisfye gaming grip still might be better for you if you have small hands, because you're still going to be using the Joy-Cons, but you're going to be using a little bit more comfortable shell. So that could be something that you could consider. The other thing is, these only work when you are connected to the Switch. When these things are in the rails, that's the only time they work. So you can't take them out and then hold them, you know, as separate Joy-Cons and just use them down by, like with your hands down by your sides on the couch or something. You can't use them that way because they draw very minimal power from the Switch itself. So there's really no batteries in them. They're just drawing a little bit of power from the actual console itself. And I don't mind that, because honestly, that's the main way that I would use them. If I'm playing a little party game that requires one button, or even something where I'm holding the Joy-Con on its side, then I don't mind the Joy-Cons so much, because I'm only, you know, the little mini games or whatever I'm doing are just that. They're, you know, I'm maybe going to be using the analog stick, maybe a trigger or something, do a little bowling on the Clubhouse games or whatever I'm going to do. So something like that. Now, the other thing that I do kind of miss, I don't mind the fact that they don't work as Joy-Cons outside of the unit. But the one thing that it does lack a lot of the innards, even though they're a lot bigger, it lacks like gyroscope stuff. So you're not going to be able to use any gyro functionality. You're also not going to get any rumble functionality. There's no rumble, no HD rumble. So, you know, I don't mind that. I mean, I don't need rumble to play. And some people actually think that is an advantage, because I know some people, especially if you have trouble holding the controller, they don't want that rumble because it makes it harder to hold. And so that could be a plus for them. But, you know, for some things like for, you know, getting a cue that I'm being hit, or when I'm shooting a gun or whatever action, I don't mind the rumble. You know, it's just kind of one of those things that's there, and I've started kind of taking for granted on a lot of games, whether I'm using the Xbox controller on a PC or on the Switch or what have you. But you're not going to get rumble on these controllers. So if you want that and you're at home, your best bet is either to use the Joy-Cons and some other solution, or use your Pro Controller, at least for rumble. Actually, does the Pro Controller have rumble? And it's been a while since I've used it. I can't remember. But yeah, so those are, I would say, are the disadvantages. Overall, though, comfort-wise, I've found what I'm looking for. Like I said, as you can tell, I've spent a few bucks. I've gotten these little rubber sleeves. I've gotten the big rubber sleeve for the whole console itself. I got that Satisfye gaming grip, which, again, isn't bad. But you're still dealing, when you have big hands, you're still dealing with these tiny, tiny Joy-Cons. If Nintendo comes out with a sequel, like a newer Switch, I would almost like them to have two models, or like two Joy-Con SKUs, where I can have like the Switch, I don't know, and the Switch Max or something, like baby hands and big in hands. Because like I said, these things are, for some titles, especially if you end up playing, like I wanted to play Mario Kart for quite a while, Mario Kart 8, and it just got uncomfortable with these Joy-Cons. Or playing a lot of games got that way for me. So this YoRHa Split Pad Pro really seems to do the job. The build quality seems solid enough. I mean, it's plasticky, but I've played a few games with it. The buttons feel good. I can't really show you really me playing the game because I'm holding my phone in the other hand. But real analog sticks larger spaced out buttons, and then you get the extra rear buttons and turbo as a bonus. Not too shabby. So that will wrap up this particular video. Like I said, this is primarily a review for the YoRHa Split Pad Pro, but I also wanted to show you some of these other JoyCon sleeves and solutions to help make your Joy-Cons more comfortable to play, because for many people that can definitely be an issue, is because those stock Joy-Cons are very small and for some uses are not the most comfortable thing in the world to use. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys found it helpful. I will go through and, like I said, add links. I got all of these different things on Amazon. I don't even remember how much some of these other ones are. Actually, the Satisfye one I got through their website, because it was a Kickstarter, and I thought, well, maybe that'll fix my problem. So I did get it there, and I got it at a reduced price. I don't know what the gaming grip is regular price. I can't think of right off the top of my head. But the Split Pad Pro is about $50 for both of them. You get them both in the box. So, you know, the Joy-Cons, these tiny little things, yes, they have HD rumble and a couple other things, but like, those are like $80, man. And yes, these lack rumble, but they're so much more comfortable to use. So if this is an issue for you, definitely check these things out. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be keeping these in my Switch the vast majority of the time. Like the video if you did. Share the video, subscribe to the channel. Much appreciated. You can follow me on Twitter at BGFH79. Twitch.tv/illegally-cited, illegally-cited.com, and of course, subscribe to youtube.com/illegally-cited right here for more videos. Until next time, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will chat with you guys later.
Stop recording video.